welcome to the Data Dump, a Blake Street Banter podcast that we are trying to figure out what it looks like. It's a working title, so bear with us. If you have any ideas, go ahead and leave us a 5-star review with your best title suggestions. But Tyler is here with me, and I think our goal for this is to learn what the numbers are saying about a player's story as we go, kind of figure out what works, what doesn't, from the minors to the majors, looking at these debuts, all that kind of stuff, and seeing like what's working, what's not, and I don't know what is actually happening with the player behind just the hey, it's a terrible season, we suck.
Yeah, and I mean we want to kind of go a little bit beyond the prospect label. Like this will be similar to Road to Blake Street, but we want to look at everyone for the most part. Like, you know, you think about a Jordan Beck and a Michael Tolia, like those guys aren't prospects anymore, but we want to take a look at those guys in this series and figure out, the rights and the wrong. And yeah, take that real deep look and create the story with numbers. So, you know, yeah, I love this idea, and I'm glad that you came up with it.
It was fun looking at it with the guys on Road to Blake Street, Lewis and Isaac, the Mike show, so to speak, and looking at Yankeel's line drive rate and looking at Carson Palmquist's stuff and how he would translate it to the major league level, and it's different, which is another story that we need to kind of dive into. But it's something I want to get a little bit better at, and it's kind of fun as a math nerd myself. Like, it's like, all right, what do all these numbers mean, and how do they translate, and what is it? How can we connect it all to being a good ball club of a good baseball player? So trying to bring analytics to the Rockies world whenever we can. We have no idea if this is going to be weekly show, bi-weekly, every 10 days, whenever Tyler and I have the time to kind of look at some stuff. So today we're going to focus on two players, Adael Amador and Carson Palmquist, for two completely different reasons, right? Amador has been in the minors for about a month now, since kind of being with the big league squad, and then Carson Palmquist just got sent down after 5 starts. So looking at those stories between the two. But before we get into that, what are some of the stats that we're looking at? You're looking at, Tyler, as we're trying to find these stories, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone wants to find like the one stat or the few stats. And I think there's always the ones you gravitate towards initially, like walk and strikeout rate. Those are always really helpful starts for both pitchers and hitters. You want to know, like, what is the name of their game? But I think a good point to just make at the top of this show, and we'll probably emphasize this all the time, is that there's not one way to be good. You want to avoid those negative extremes, like a 35% strikeout rate. Like, that's never going to be something you want, but you could have a 30% strikeout rate and still be a really good player. So I think trying to just take that holistic view, look at the plate discipline stats, the quality of contact, break it down pitch by pitch and really see what's going on. But I think if you have to look at like one or two stats that are going to give you that good picture, walk and strikeout rate, that's your jumping off point. From there, there's a sea of numbers to dive into. We were just talking an off-air pitcher list. Like it's crazy. There's so much to look at. So I think you can give and take with every player. So I mean, that's what we're trying to do here is figure out, like, is this working or is it not?
Yeah, where are we actually going with it? And so we're starting with Adael Amador. We're starting with Carson Palmquist. I would love to look at Zach Veen and how he was supposed to be working on in the minors. However, he's been dealing with an ankle injury, playing ACL. Not a lot of data that comes from that that's actually worthwhile. So hopefully we get into his little Zach Veen action next time. But Adael Amador right now. So like we said, was sent down, played his last major league game. He's still up. No, he got sent down. Where is Amador?
It's been like 2 weeks. Whenever
2 weeks.
Estrada,
the 27th.
It was either Estrada or Arcia. So it's been like 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. So he got sent down on the 27th. For some reason I thought it was like June 3rd, not June 13th. Okay, my bad. Again, crazy few weeks. So, and then he's been down in Albuquerque AAA level. I guess, what were some of the biggest struggles? What are some of the numbers? What are the numbers saying about his struggles at the major league level for you?
Yeah, no, I mean, this was sort of the one that I found that I was like, okay, this is the story right here. And so part of me was like, oh, I'll save that for later. But I think the biggest point that just has to be made now, and then we'll talk about it, at the end, summing this up. There's a concerning trend with him and hitting off-speed pitches. And I think that right now is the biggest issue. You think about off-speed pitches being used to offset a fastball, you throw a fastball changeup. And if you're struggling with that changeup, guys are going to change their sequences a little bit more and make that a little bit more 50-50 instead of, guys are throwing 75% fastball and 25% changeup in that tunnel. He had a 39% chase rate against off-speed pitches in the big leagues and 0 hits. And then he goes down to AAA. I mean, he started the season in AAA, back down there. His WOBA, weighted on base average, which you want to see like in the 300s. I mean, low 300s is fine. Mid 300s is good. He has a 253 WOBA against changeups. I didn't look at splitters because there was very little data there. But those are numbers that aren't working. And I think that, I mean, everyone's going to have a little bit of a weakness pitch-wise. But for him right now, just being fooled by off-speed pitches, in that fastball off-speed tunnel, it's throwing a lot of things off. And I mean, that's not the only issue, but I think it might be the biggest one.
And that makes sense because comparing his MLB data from 24 to 25, his swing percentage has gone down 15%. His outside of the zone swing percentage has gone down 22%. It was at 30% this year. But his whiff rate is still the same. His strike percentage his zone percentage is about the same. So he's swinging in the zone the same amount of percentage, but those swings are happening far less, which I think is what does that tell the story of that he's seeing the ball a little bit better. He's able to actually identify what that pitch is, but it's now just figuring out what that pitch is at the major league level.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it is really encouraging to see that. Like last year, we saw him come up, and it was like he doesn't look like he's trying to do anything. Like he's just kind of playing. This year looked a lot more controlled, and yeah, you told the story of a lot of those key numbers, like better swing decisions, but it hasn't translated remotely to better results. And I think part of that is now teams have a little bit more of an idea on how to pitch to Amador. In 2024, he saw off-speed pitches 12.6% of the time. This year, up to 18%. So teams realizing, hey, this kid, I mean, that's not a huge number of pitches, but teams realize we got to start throwing these to him more. I think that plays a little bit of a part. And so he's still yet to get a hit on an off-speed pitch in his entire career, and he's put 25 in play. So we're seeing that timing is really, really off on the off-speed.
That's interesting. that is telling, because, and again, looking at some of these other numbers, his barrel percentage was 4.5% this year, which means those off-speed pitches, like you're saying, he's not getting good contact on. He's not figuring out what those look like. Better swing decisions, but the contact, the power with the contact just isn't there. So that's interesting. He's about league average. He's pulling the ball a little bit more than league average, which is interesting. And his line drive rate was at an 18%, which is an 8% jump from last year's 10%. So like there are some numbers here that show it's like, hey, good signs. Like you're doing what you're supposed to with the fastball is pretty much what this story seems to be coming out as. Like you're lining the fastball, you're doing what you're supposed to do with the fastball. However, it's those off speeds that are stopping you from barreling it a lot more often and doing what you need to with those off speed pitches and causing damage on that. Because we know his contact percentage, his contact ability is insane. Like he can make contact with a lot of pitches, and the swing decisions are getting better. But how can we now combine that with the off-speed stuff? And that's kind of like what we saw with Michael Toglia a little bit too. Like, I mean, shoot, you can go down the list of Rockies hitters. Remember Laris Montero and a off-speed? Like that's telling. That there's something there too.
Yeah, I mean, he does need to start putting more together, and I think that kind of brings up the next big issue. And at the top, thinking about everything. Like you can be great in one way, but if you're just absolutely not getting it done at all in another way, you're probably not going to be good, and vice versa. And right now, his average exit velocity of 83.3 miles per hour. That's like, and his career max exit velocity is 103.6. And that really translates to like 30 grade power. It's truly what that says. maybe a 40 if you're looking at kind of the launch angles a little bit more, but I also don't think he's a big time fly ball hitter. So you're looking at a guy who's really kind of slapping the ball a little bit softly. And I think that's where you're seeing some of those positive trends, swing decisions, more line drives this year. But when you're not hitting the ball hard, you run into some issues. So I think that is one of those true negative extremes for him right now, is the lack of impact in the bat, which we know he's not going to be like a 25 home run hitter, but there were hopes he'd be a 15, 20 guy. Right now, it'd be like maybe this is an 8 home run type of hitter. Maybe that assumes a lot goes his way. So
yeah, there's that adjustment period that definitely is there. In the minors this year, he has a 51% ground ball percentage at AAA. At the majors, it's 32%, which 32% at the majors is not a terrible rate for the ground ball. But his fly ball rate, what you're saying, at the major league level is at 46%. Adael Amador is not going to live at a fly ball percentage. Like, he shouldn't be fly balling that. I also want to note, like, the huge difference between the AAA level and the major league level, like looking at off speeds. This is just percentages of the velocities of the pitches that he's seen, right? So the sinker, speaking off speed stuff, the sinker at the AAA level that he saw was 92 miles per hour. The sinker at the major league, 94. The slider, 83.7 at the AAA level, 85.2 at the major league level. The changeup's even 3 miles per hour faster. The changeup is 3 miles per hour faster. So, like, these off speeds, like we talk about, you have to go down to the minors and work on these skills. You have to be able to catch up to the fastball, identify the off speeds a little bit quicker. Everything's faster. Everything's bigger at the major league level. Everything's nastier at the major league level. So, like, how is he supposed to work in all these things? Like, hey, don't fly ball, don't fly out as much. However, everything's coming a little bit quicker, and you have to make a little bit better decisions with that. And I think that's the hardest. We're seeing that across the league. Like, there's players that are coming up that are just falling flat on their faces everywhere. This isn't just a Rockies problem. But there is that huge gap, I think, between AAA and the major league level that makes some of this development take a little bit longer to get to.
Yeah, and I think that's where you end up at the end of the day looking inward a little bit at the Rockies, and it's something we talk about a decent bit over here in terms of, like, are the Rockies like doing as good of a job as they possibly can making that transition for guys. Like, other teams are definitely doing it better, and it really comes down to, like, just how badly are the Rockies doing in that department. But I think one of the bigger things to your previous point is he needs more reps at the big league level to see that velocity, and maybe the falling flat still keeps happening. But considering, he's come up and he's seen fastballs that are 92 to 94 on average, and the breaking stuff in the low 80s, and now suddenly everything is 2 miles an hour faster. That is an adjustment that has to be made, and I think he's been trying to make it, but just need to see more of a plan with him too, and that's kind of getting back into, like, some of the eye test stuff. You watch him hit, and a lot of those plate discipline numbers have been better, but it still doesn't quite look like he has a consistent plan, and it looks like he presses a little bit when he does get out there at the big league level. So I think that's partially out of his control. Guys press, like, that's normal. You're like, oh, I'm playing every other day. I gotta make it, the best of this. And so I don't think he's been set up at the big league level to necessarily have success. But I always think back, he had the 3-hit game. I forget if it was 3 hits or more. And then Bud Black sits him the next day. And it's like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, he finally had an Amador game and you sat him the next day. So I think there's something there, in that the only way to really figure this out is with repetition. Like, nobody comes up to the big leagues and makes it as, like, a pinch hit role player. Like, that's not how it works. You have to at some point get a regular role, and then it's like, okay, this guy's not a starter. Let's put him into the role player category. Like, you can't bring a 22-year-old up and make him this every other day guy and expect success. So that explains some of what we're seeing, but really, like, there's some problematic red flags that we've talked about.
Yeah, and that's been my ongoing theory about Bud Black and how he kind of set the team back a little bit, because you have Amador, who is an everyday player, who should have been an everyday player, who wasn't getting everyday reps. And so go down to the minors, get your everyday reps. Orlando Arcia will fill in while you figure it out. Estrada's here. So let's just go get everyday reps. So when you are ready, we're coming to do everyday reps. We're seeing right now with Ryan Ritter, who's on a 6-game hit streak, who's literally 6 games into his major league career. Dog. So, I mean, clearly there's a story, right? There's the off speed needs to get better. Everything needs to get a little bit quicker that he's working on down in the minors, and making sure that swing path isn't creating fly balls on those off speed pitches, and being able to get back to the line drive and the ground balls, and like going back to his wheelhouse and identifying what those off speed pitches are a little bit earlier.
Yeah, find more impact. Like an 85-mile-an-hour line drive is a lot better than an 80-mile-an-hour fly ball. And that's sort of right now, I think one of the bigger differences for him right now is a lot more of those weaker fly balls versus just a solid line drive. Like not a O'Neal Cruz crushed 120-mile-an-hour batted ball.
Yeah.
Just find solid contact on a line. And I think he's struggled to just find that perfect middle zone of harder line drives, maybe some hard fly balls, but it's been not the ideal contact zones we're seeing.
Just got to find it. And so I thought this number was interesting. So his out of zone contact percentage is 64%. The league average is 57%. That was this year. So he's making more contact with pitches outside of the zone. Granted, his out of the zone swing percentage has dropped tremendously, but he's still making more contact with out of the zone pitches. That does. I don't believe that includes foul balls. So learning how to foul those off and figuring that out is going to be important. Again, identifying what those off speeds are, so we're not chasing outside of the zone.
And I think another just odd trend is seeing, his whiff percentage or contact percentage, like either way you want to look at it, is above average, like overall, but his strikeout rate of almost 25% is below average. So the pure contact is there, but yeah, to your point, not executing some of the key pitches, like being beat on a lot of the key pitches. I'm sure if you were to dig into it, and it's like 1-2 and 2-2 counts, I bet he has some more issues versus like when he's even or when he's ahead. I bet he's playing much more in control, but getting beat by a lot of those key pitches that when pitchers are attacking. Like you don't see the whiff in strikeout rates not correlate like they are with him. He should be a guy running like a sub 20% strikeout rate, was running almost 25. So many little things in the margins for him that have to get cleaned up. It's a weird profile to be digging into.
It really is. Like what I'm getting though is the underlining metrics are there. Like there is good things happening, right? Like we talk about good decisions are super important, especially at the major league level, like understanding when to swing, when not to swing. And Amador has kind of shown that from last year to this year, that those decisions are getting a little bit better. Now it's putting those decisions with the swing and turning that into off speed, dominating the off speed. And I think, again, we see that with a lot of the Rockies players. We see that with a lot of fresh major league players. Not everybody could come out like Jackson Merrill did their rookie year. Like it's super tough. So Adael, Amador, we are looking for the off-speed contact to be a little bit better going forward as he adjusts to the off-speed being a little bit better. And then our second player, our other player that we're going to talk about today, again, as you're listening, please comment ideas, give us any kind of feedback to kind of turn this into something a little bit more. Sometimes when I listen to these type of pods, all the numbers get a little jumbled, like what you talking about, dude? And so if we need to hone it in a little bit, please let us. Again, first attempt at this. But let's talk about Carson Palmquist. So I enjoy Carson Palmquist. He's somebody I've enjoyed watching throw in the minors. I know you've talked about him in the past quite a bit. Just there's this funky lefty Kyle Freeland-esque in Carson Palmquist with crazy amount of extension, which is kind of fun to see, right? And I think that's what's making him effective. So all of his underlining numbers at the minor league levels, when I talked about this about a month and a half ago, was he's going to be okay. He's going to be a number 4, number 5 starter. He's going to be about league average. He's not going to get you a lot of strikeouts, not going to get you a lot of walks, but he's going to just do what he's supposed to. And I think through his first 5 games, not looking at the overall stats, I guess I could probably do that. Through his first 5 starts, 22 innings pitched, 16 strikeouts. The whip is at a 1.82. There's a story with that. It's about what I expected out of Carson Palmquist. I don't think I expected as many walks from him. But again, there's a story here with some of the numbers that come with that. I guess overall, before we get into the numbers, have you been impressed with Carson Palmquist's first 5 starts at the major league level? Did you watch any of them? Again, time is tough. I guess, what are some of your quick major league Carson Palmquist takeaways?
I think to preface, I probably watched 12 to 15 of the innings, so enough. Like I got to see some stuff. I got to see the bad and some of the good. Like when he faced Chicago, it was like, okay, I'm seeing some of the appeal here. Didn't get to watch the Mets start, which he struck out 8. And I would have liked to see kind of more what he was accomplishing there. But to me, the biggest takeaway, and I tried to isolate like his first 2 starts from the later 3, because the first 2 starts, it's like, they were even saying it on the broadcast. And when they're like, the broadcast guys, they know their stuff, but when they catch on to something like that, it's very obvious. Like, and they were saying he's not getting the fastball up. And that is the name of his game. When you break down, like some of the stuff we're going to talk about, like, you mentioned the extension, the arm slot, like some of that funk, he needs to be painting that fastball up in those first few starts. I don't think he landed one at the letters. It was like everything was like below the letters, mostly like low in the zone. And so it's always tough as a fan to know who's making that decision exactly. Like you have, at the beginning you had Bud Black, you have now Warren Schaefer, you've got Darren Holmes, you've got, Jacob Stallings, Hunter Goodman, and then you have Carson. It's like, who between the group is having the biggest influence on misusing his fastball, like plain and simple. It's not going to be a plus fastball, but some of those characteristics are rare. We talk about Sean Sullivan a lot, very similar ways that the fastballs get things done, despite no velocity. But early on, just throwing it low. And I think just he got stuck in the in-between of trying to force it up because he realized, like, I'm not getting the pitch up. It lost command a lot of the time. And so I think when you see a guy come up to the big leagues, and really the biggest issue is command, and we know that they can command the ball, you give a pass to some of the struggles. I mean, we saw struggles, a lot of walks. Like he's a guy he'll walk some people, but if you think about like per 9 basis, he's going to be like a 3.5, maybe 4, and we saw him at like 5.3. And on a strikeout rate or a walk rate basis, he should be below 10, and he was at 12%. So we know he can be better than that. And I think some of the things I saw in watching him were very, very correctable. Some nerves, and then also just bad game planning, plain and simple. I think that holds a lot of the responsibility.
And that's where I kind of found his story, so to speak. We keep talking about these guys' stories. So his debut against Arizona went 4 innings, 5 earned runs, 1 walk, 0 strikeouts. Just the amount of stuff going there. And I think this is a little bit of pitch data trying to figure out what Carson Palmquist's stuff is. But he threw the 4-seamer 5 times. His sinker, slider were the 2 main pitches, with the sweeper only being thrown 6 times in his first outing, right? I think some of that is nerves and all that. But then if you go to his 8 strikeout game against the Mets, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts, still 4 earned runs. But we're looking at his pitch usage of 48 pitches, 4-seamer, 28% was the sweeper. And then he threw in a cutter, sinker, and a changeup in there. Where the strike percentage on the 4-seamer that day was 77%. The Giants game that you were talking about, that 4-seamer was at 68%, and he threw his cutter a lot more often, with actually throwing it 23% of the time. So he added his cutter more into the game plan against the Giants, which didn't go so well, than he did against the Mets. Like, his pitch usage from start to start is incredibly different. And I think it might have been like what you're saying with the fastball usage and not being able to find it with the Mets. So like, hey, I got to find something here that works. So let's go sweeper, cutter heavy. And the sweeper or the cutter got 65% strike percentage. So it was a useful pitch that day. But you see his mile per hour going lower each time. Like he against the Giants was 89.3. His very first game, he was sitting at 91 with the sinker. We're going to assume that was his fastball. So as those 5 starts went on, his velocity went down. And maybe that's because he wasn't able to find the fastball. So he's trying to take a little off to kind of place it. I'm not quite sure. But the biggest thing is that fastball needs to be able to play. The fastball got hit incredibly hard when it was there. So 20% barrel percentage on the fastball in his 5 starts. Hard hit percentage was 55%. Just not a lot of swing and miss on it. Swinging strikes was 49%. League average is 40% on the fastball. So him not having the fastball was tough. His sweeper is a plus pitch. His sweeper is nasty. His cutter was sitting pretty nice when he was throwing it. So there is those secondary pitches are nice, but they have to play off the fastball. And when that fastball is gone, it's just not going to be there for Carson. Not at the major league level.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be the most important thing. And we've seen him in the past get more into like up to like 93, and I thought like last year before he got injured was getting up to 93 pretty consistently. And getting that extra gear could be very helpful. Obviously, to your point, it doesn't seem like that's really happening. It seems the opposite. Like he's struggling to hold that 90-91 average. That has got there's a few things that have got to come through with that fastball, but the sinker has played a lot better, and I think that's just because there's less risk in throwing a sinker. Like, you're not going to strike guys out with a sinker as much, but you're also going to avoid getting crushed. I mean, he's given up 4 homers already with the 4-seamer. Yeah. So I think when he comes back up, or really he should be working down in the minors on the 4-seamer and getting that feel for it. But if he can play with that sweeper and the sinker with lower risk pitch, play off the cutter a little bit, that faster breaking pitch, basically. I also would like to see him just throw the changeup a tiny bit more. I think it's hard for guys to establish 5 pitches when they're first coming up. But if the 4-seamer is not working, a great way to kind of help yourself out and support it is to get the changeup going. Mm-hmm. Kind of what we're talking about with Amador is like, you might be hitting the fastball, but if you can't hit the changeup, guys are gonna key in on that. So I think it could help to establish the changeup just a little bit more. That's not going to be his best pitch, but it could be a very, very capable 5th option for him.
And that's something that just makes him that much better. With the San Francisco start, he threw it 6 times. Swing percent or strike percent was 16% on that changeup. He only threw it twice in the Mets game, and then in his second start against Philly, the changeup appeared 9 times, 44% strike percentage there. So with 2 of those being outs, 1 being a foul ball. So it's, I don't know, like figuring out what this pitch mix is at the major league level. I think he's kind of got to figure it out with the 4-seamer, the sweeper, and the cutter. But adding that 4th solid pitch, that changeup, or adding that sinker, whatever that looks like with the cutter sinker curveball thing, like figuring out what that is. And I think looking at what he does at the AAA level, seeing what that pitch mix looks like, that would make me feel more comfortable that the Rockies are seeing some trends with Carson Palmquist. Like, all right, this is what we kind of figured out what your arsenal is, right? You're going 4-seamer, sweeper, cutter. Let's figure out what this 4th pitch is, and let's start working on that at the AAA level. So if you're throwing 20 changeups at the AAA level out of your 70 pitches, that's fine. You might get blown up, but let's looking at what is the pitch usage at the AAA level rather than the results, I think is what we need to look at for Carson as he tries to find his footing back at the major league mound.
Yeah, and I mean, I think also just kind of going back to we did it with Amador, like getting into the realities that are at play. Like we're digging into the numbers, but he's had a little bit of a weird few months, I guess almost a year at this point. Like had injuries at the end of last season, slow start in spring training. I think he missed the first couple of weeks, and made 7 AAA starts before getting called to the big league. So I think there is definitely some revamping still going on. Guys, I mean, pitching is just so fickle, and it takes a lot of time and confidence building for guys to really figure things out. So that's another reason to just kind of give him a little bit of patience. And to your point, yeah, like let's see how he's trying to operate in AAA, because he has to figure out again, like what mix is going to work best for me, and the confidence that I can carry with the capability of throwing 5 pitches. So I think that's something we'll have to get Mike on, or Mike does enough. We got to get somebody on tracking these pitch mixes week to week, start to start.
Yeah, I think he's got to be somewhere out there that has the minor league pitching data. I mean, Statcast has it, right? It's like they track the pitches there, so we could probably probably figure that out.
Wouldn't be too bad to just go on those and track it. So we'll have that coming.
Hopefully we have that coming. We got to find the time. But the other thing that was interesting with Carson Palmquist is his out of zone swing percentage is at 26%, which the league average is 29%. It's just when they're not swinging on the pitches outside the zone, so they know what's coming. They're seeing what it is. So whether that's the game planning, the arsenal, the tunneling of it, like what the sweeper's coming. I don't know what that necessarily means, but looking at just finding a way to get the players to swing outside of the zone, because he throws a lot of strikes. That's what makes Carson Palmquist great. But you have to find that out pitch to get poor contact or the strikeout at that major league level. Again, I think that's where that changeup comes into play with it.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm blanking on which start it was. It might have been one of the first ones, but it also might have been Chicago, which he ended up turning into a good start. But it was the first inning in the game, trying to locate, like I kind of mentioned it, trying to locate the fastball up, and it was just constantly like tailing off, 3 balls out of the zone, and guys were just like standing there, just chilling, like let this guy throw a freaking strike. And I think that probably explains some of that chase outside the zone swing percentage is guys saying, hey, this guy hasn't really gotten comfortable at the big league level yet. Like, make him beat me. Like, he hasn't proven yet that he's going to beat guys consistently, especially if he's not getting ahead. Like, if he gets ahead, yeah, then you're on your toes. But he's not a guy who's been getting ahead a lot. I think teams are putting the bat on their shoulder. And that's something that he can capitalize on. Like, in his career, he is an average strike thrower. With the deception and stuff to miss bats. So he's got to get back to being an average strike thrower at the big leagues, and I think you could see everything just shoot straight up.
Yeah, and we'll end it with that note. It's the first pitch strike percentage sat at 49% in his 5 major league starts, which is ironically better than his AAA starts at 46%. But if you're not able to get ahead at the major league level, you want that to be around 60-65% at minimum at that first strike percentage. And so if you're not getting ahead, players can just sit on the fastball. We can sit on the sweeper. We can see if it's in the zone, outside the zone. So I think getting ahead and working on that changeup is going to be important for Carson at the AAA level to come back up to be a number 3, number 4, number 5 starter at the major league level.
Yeah, I mean, completely agreed. It throws out. You can't. We're talking about how to mix the arsenal, how to game plan. You can't have a game plan if you're getting behind like more than half the headers. So that is potentially, if we're trying to like create a checklist of things that need to improve. We talked about Amador. See the changeup better with Palmquist. It is get ahead, get ahead, and
get ahead and throw the changeup. So to recap today, the changeup is super important on both sides of the ball. Figuring that out. I thought it went well. I thought it's fun. I know there's a lot of numbers that we need to hone in on and figuring out what our story is for the players. But I don't know. This kind of stuff is fun. I like this. I think there's some benefits to understanding what some of this is other than the traditional, even like the barrel percentage. There's a cool StatCast stuff. Fun. That's awesome. However, there's more to it. Like, why isn't Amador barreling? Well, it's because the offspeed's kicking his ass. Well, how do we work on that? I don't know, but hopefully the organization is figuring that out as we have Warren Schaefer at their helm, and he's doing things different. Games are competitive. Yesterday was a fun game. I think I saw our guy Oak Treat Status, Luke. He's like, game 1 should have won, lost. Game 2 should have won, but lost. Game 3 Shouldn't have won, but we did. So like, just classic Coors Field, which we're here for. And just having this little bit extra stuff to look at for some of these players will have me more engaged with some of these players as they're with the Rockies, as we're trying to just not lose 140 games.
Yeah, I mean, you lose sight of, like, it's fun to dig into the specifics, because otherwise you're just looking at the grand picture, and it doesn't really tell you what's. I mean, you know who's winning, who's losing. You know the Rockies are not good, but we're here for the individual players. I mean, in a season like this especially, and so you got to know, why is this guy good or why is this guy not playing well. You know, and that's a beauty. I hope everyone is excited to share that with us. We got a couple. We were gonna do more today, but realized, like, hey, let's keep it simple to start off. There's a lot of fun players to dive into and some fun storylines that I'm excited for,
that we can watch. And if you have anybody that you want us to look into for the next time that we get together, holler at us, tweet at us, DM us, put in the YouTube comments, anything. Leave a 5-star review on any of the podcast platforms, and we'll go from there. Go Rocks! Woo!